Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
Why the big pause?
Just felt like it.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
I want you guys to elaborate a little more on the letter.
The letter.
The letter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the letter. I didn't know anybody else read the one my wife gave me.
No, not
Different
the Dear
letter.
John letter, the other letter.
She hasn't sent me a letter for a while. I know she's probably watching me. She used to send me letters when we were first married.
I got a letter this morning. It was nice.
My letters weren't always nice, though.
No, mine weren't either. This one was a nice one.
After you got married, she sent you letters that were like what to work on?
Yeah. Because she could express her feelings much better in a letter.
Now she's
no wonder your wife and mine get along so well. That's exactly.
And so I would read those letters, and they were good because it helped me.
Sure.
Identify things that I needed to work on.
But did you work on them?
I did.
That's my problem. I don't necessarily always work on them
I did.
quickly. It may take a decade.
I hope the General Motors dealers in the country work on things
the same way.
It's
the same thing.
If they
General
ignore,
Motors is sending their dealers a letter saying, listen, we like you, but you gotta.
There could be some consequences here if you don't change a few things.
That's right.
And or else it could have been a letter that said, "Don't put your hand in the cookie jar, or we're gonna take away your cookies."
Now, this is also something that Ford sent out. So, talk about the letter a little bit because this came out this week that they sent the letter out to dealers.
Okay, so first off, most of us realize that when we're looking at cars, we think they're very expensive. Sometimes we think they're too expensive. And then for those of us who look at sports cars, yeah, if you're rich, who cares, right? But those of us who look at sports cars and think, oh, that's great, and we definitely notice that it may have a retail price of $63,000, but it's being sold for $85,000, or it's being bid upon. You get to make your bid of if you're going to get it or not. Well, that's over manufacturer's suggested retail price. And we're in a world of capitalism right now where supply and demand and people can get a little more for things. But the thing with the manufacturers, the manufacturer owns the car. They're controlling how the car is sold. It's their, like I told you, I was telling you, Chris, I said, here's a phone. I own this phone. And I want you to sell it for $100, and I'll pay you a commission. That's it. But if I say, take it, buddy, and anything you can get, go ahead. They're not saying anything you can get.
Let's go back. Let's even bring it back a little further. Corvettes, specifically in this instance, their MSRP is around $60,000.
$70,000, give or take options. You can get up there higher than that. You got the new Z06, which is much higher than that.
But the word is that if you go to a dealership, you're not going to be able to get, they just don't have them, but you can pay a little more maybe and get. So what it was GM was hearing that dealerships were marking up the price. And we've heard, I mean, this has always happened with some models. But now I think it's become kind of into focus because of the supply chain, because the availability.
And just to kind of put a pin into it, is the vice president of North American Motors sent a letter out and said, hey, here's the rules. By the way, here's the specific sections of the agreements that you signed with us to sell our cars that talk about fair practices, pricing, these sort of things. We want to remind you that you signed these agreements, and this is what's in there. And we know, and they recognize these are a few bad actors that are hurting it for others. And so they said, if you don't play by the rules, it will most likely affect your allocation of vehicles to get, and potentially more. I mean, they gave a very strong warning. And it also included a message in regards to selling the cars to brokers. Because apparently, and I'm only speculating here, but apparently there must have been some situations they were finding out about where brokers were getting opportunities to buy the cars, and then I'd have to guess that there was some sort of split of a marked up profit going on for them to be concerned about that.
Right.
You know, trying to circumvent selling it for...
Yeah, if I go buy a car and I want to immediately try to flip it, that's on me. I can do that. Except sometimes.
Yeah.
Not if it's a
Ford GT.
Yeah. And then so now what is suspected and is maybe hearsay, I guess we don't know if it's, is that somebody's coming and saying, I can sell this for more. Let's work out a deal where we'll split the
and so,
profit.
I mean, that's purely speculation that I say that, but I don't think they would have had that message about brokers in that letter
if they hadn't had
that situation.
So the
come
bottom
up.
line is right now, if you have, a half a dozen Corvettes that, you need moved, you just give them to us and we'll we'll negotiate a fair market price and give you your
when I'm done with
cost.
it'll be a used car that we can sell.
We referenced the GT, and Ford had put specific rules on there that said, hey, if you're going to go through our vetting process to buy one of these cars, you have to keep it. You have to own it for a certain period of time before you can sell it.
And that wasn't just the dealer. That was the...
And somebody got in trouble on that one.
John Cena, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was involved in the whole deal.
And what I wanted to come back to when you sent that email was Ford sent very similar letter a couple weeks ago to their dealers about the Lightning. And the same thing they talked about putting, if the dealer wanted, they could put into the contract that you couldn't sell it for 1 year. And so it's not something that is unique to GM right now.
No, it's across the board. And I'll say that this is just personal experience with our local Ford dealer. You guys have heard on the show that I've got a Bronco on order. They were excellent about it. They said, no, we've got high demand. This is our price, and it's the list price, and we'll give you our normal stuff that we do, and we'll take care of you, and we're going to guide you through the process, but this is the price. And if you don't want to buy it, that's okay. They'd like to sell it to me, but that was the price.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Iowa and talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hey, interesting conversation, guys. I appreciate what you do for all of us that are listening. I got a 2012 Toyota Tacoma, and over the past couple of years, I get these recall notices from Toyota. And the last one I got, I just need your insight on because I'm having a hard time getting some answers. This last one has to do with the injection pump and the filter. They're either going to replace the filter or replace the injection pump with the new filter, but they will definitely replace the air switching valves on the emission system. And so I took it in. They checked it out. They're going to order the parts, and that's the problem I have, is the parts are on back order. And they're going to be on back order for at least 2 weeks, could be longer because of what's going on. So I want to go pick up my pickup, but it's an hour and a half away from where I live. And they're very much cautioning me not to do that from the standpoint of this truck could go into Limp-mode at any time because of this issue. But no one can tell me what Limp-mode means to me. And so I need the truck because of where I live, but I don't understand what Limp-mode means. It's a 6-cylinder and it's a 6-speed manual transmission. Can you guys explain to me what the consequences are if the truck goes into this state? Because the Toyota dealer is having a very hard time telling me what's going to happen, if anything.
Well, first of all, we don't allow those kind of commercials on the show. And then second, when you have a Toyota like that and it goes into that mode, Russ just looked at me like, why did you even go there? But the typically what they'll do is they'll put the vehicle into like second gear and they'll limit the RPMs, and so that it will just be safe enough to get off the road to safety, and you can limp it to your next service center.
Mm-hmm.
And with the manual trans, it just limits your RPM.
Yeah, that's right. I guess I didn't even think about that with the manual trans. It's about all they can do on that. But Russ, have you ever seen a Toyota like that go into that mode?
No. But I got a great example of this truck. Our radio station that we're our
Mothership.
home market radio station that we're broadcasting to right now owns a Toyota. Same year Toyota.
They got a Tundra, don't they?
Uh-huh. Same engine though.
Yep.
Same drivetrain. It's had these valves fail on it 3 or 4 times now. I think the first time they were replaced at a dealership, and the last 3, I think we've done them every couple years. They typically are out for a year or so before they do anything about them. The check engine light's just on, and they're aware of what it is. They're like, it's just those valves again, and they leave it. I've never seen that go into limp mode. I've actually never seen any Toyota come into our shop that was in limp mode. I've seen them with a transmission out, but I haven't seen one go into a limp mode, which is odd. And if it's just the air diverter valves that are failed on that thing, I don't believe that computer system is capable of putting it into limp mode for that problem, because that's an air injection emissions thing just to give a more complete burn to the fuel. It's not affecting the way the engine itself runs unless it was dumping full into the exhaust, which typically they don't. The valve breaks and they stick closed.
Well, if it was bad enough,
You'd know it. It would run.
well,
horrible.
and you'd probably be getting a flashing check engine light.
It would misfire because it would be running, too rich or too lean. It would run horribly if you're getting enough air into the exhaust that it's changing the oxygen sensor reading.
So
let me.
our first hunch is that
It's fine. I think that's our first hunch.
You're going to be in a bad state of evaporative emissions, which is still quite clean for that vehicle, because the evaporative emissions system like super cleans things. You wouldn't want to leave it that way, but I don't know that it would not run to drive until the part comes in.
So for one, limp mode is bad. You don't want that.
Yeah.
But John, I think I'm going to wrap this up because we got to take a break. But let me see if I can put a bow on this. Technically, it could go into limp mode, but it's so he's getting the same. He's getting the same answer from us that he's getting.
They're
from
giving
the
an
dealer.
ultra conservative answer.
And they're not quite giving the total answer because they probably think the same thing we do.
Yeah, they just don't want to say it.
This is what the bulletin says. This is what we're supposed to tell you, but it probably.
And there a lot of times people they'll order parts, the car will go away, and it won't ever come back again in times we're in.
Right.
And they want to
So
make sure they get it fixed.
They're probably going to ask you for the payment in full for the parts up front, and then you
But
can
if it's a
take the
recall-
car and drive it. I don't think it is. It's too old.
He said the recall. Oh, interesting.
This is-
Check into that recall.
Got the-
8 year, 80,000 miles.
Got the same kind of wishy-washy answer from us.
You can drive it, I think.
John, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Now let's talk to Daryl. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Daryl, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning. I've got a 07 Ford E150, and whenever I put the engine under power, I lose my heater or my AC, whatever temperature, whatever time of year it is. It just quits working, and then as soon as I let off the gas, then I get my AC back or my heater back.
The E150, the new electric Ford pickup.
No. The
What
E
is an-
stands for Econoline.
Okay. All right.
Econoline van.
Man, okay.
So they've used that E series in the vans for quite a long time. So have you owned this van for a while?
Yeah, but I had an 04 E150, and that thing did the same thing.
all the same with the HVAC system, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. The vents are all vacuum powered. And when you take vacuum away, it defaults to the defroster position, because if it were to break, the safest thing is to have a defroster that works. So everything springs back into the defrost mode. It has to mechanically pull it away to give you vents or floor. So that system works by using a vacuum line on the intake manifold that runs up into the passenger side fender well, where it can, Shannon's looking to see if I'm accurate. He's like, oh, well, this is interesting.
No, I'm just getting over the fact that in 070,
Visualize it.
I'm getting the fact that 070 Econoline still has vacuum hooked to the HVAC system and not
Well,
mode control
still
doors.
an older body.
Yeah, it is.
So they run it into the passenger side fender well, where it comes into the cab of the vehicle and plugs into the side of the heater box. The side of the heater box is where there's a vacuum canister. It's just a big plastic sealed housing that allows it to store vacuum exactly the opposite way that an air compressor tank, it stores pressure in the tank of the compressor. So it's pulling a vacuum down in there, and it's got a one-way check valve on the engine side of it so that it can't bleed that vacuum off of the engine. But when you accelerate, a lot of people in your head, I used to think, well, RPM, the engine's going faster, there's more vacuum. But really, it's not. You've got a giant hole there with the throttle body. When you open it up, those butterflies open and it allows air to flow, and you lose your vacuum. So when the vacuum is lost, it can't bypass that check valve, and that big tank under there is storing enough vacuum to hold that defrost mode for a while. If there's no leaks in it, it'll hold for 5 minutes. If there is a small leak in it, sometimes people report when I accelerate on the interstate for a real long pull with a trailer or something, it'll eventually drop off, and then it comes back instantly when they let off the throttle. Sometimes you'll have to let off and then step on it again if you need the vents to come back, if it's a real hot day or something. But I suspect that either the check valve that is on the engine side of your firewall under your hood, either that check valve is bad or you have a leak in the system. It's very common on the Econoline to have either rodent damage. We've seen a lot of them with rodent damage where they start chewing on that little line coming through the firewall on the inside of the vehicle, or the check valve goes bad. The first thing we would do would be put check valve in it. They're $8 to $10 at an auto parts store. Just pop yours out, put a new one in, see if that fixes the problem. You can also pull that check valve out and you put it in your mouth and see if air will go through one way.
Sounds gross,
but not the other way.
Yeah.
It's clean enough. It tastes a little bit like gas, but yeah, you're all right. Won't cause much brain damage. But yeah, it should flow one way and not the other. But sometimes you can't tell for sure. But yeah, like I said, it's under $10. Pop a valve in there, see if it fixes it. If it doesn't, you just need to follow that line. The other thing you want to do, so the center of your dash by the windshield, are you familiar with that big, funky-looking cover that sits on the center there? There's It's not square, but it's kind of, it's right there. It's right like under your rearview mirror on top of your dash. Pop that off. Look underneath it. There's going to be a vacuum connector there for the HVAC. Make sure it's plugged in, because we've seen some of those just start to work their way loose, and when they do, you lose that vacuum. So some have been as simple as popping the cover off, push it together, put the cover back on, and you're fixed. That's the free repair. The other one's the $10 repair.
Those are pretty good options, I think.
So, but more than likely, if you cannot hear a vacuum leak, like right behind your dash where the AC control is, it's either going to be that plug coming loose under the top of the dash behind the radio area, or it's going to be a check valve that's bad, something causing it to leak in the system. But either way, it takes time to work on, but it's usually a very inexpensive repair as far as parts.
Daryl, thanks very much for the call. I can't do the thing where I check it with my mouth.
Because you only do the...
No, because I never think, even though I know that something's blocked, I always think it's just me not trying hard enough. So
bad airflow?
Yeah, so I'll just push until my cheeks, till I pull a muscle in my cheeks.
And then you probably break it.
My embouchure muscles.
Is that
those
what-
then,
real?
and then you get
there's another.
like when you blow a balloon up and you that,
What are they called?
your embouchure is what you're keeping your cheeks at when you're like playing a trumpet.
Well, and then when you do that with the balloon, then eventually you get sore.
Yeah.
Like doing like balloon animals.
So
and stuff.
I can't use that as a test because I'll just try until I always think it's my failing, I'm not giving it enough. But yeah, so I try too hard. It's about the only thing in my life where I actually try too hard. So
I like when producer Doug puts a joke up on
Yeah.
call screen or screen.
like Dizzy Gillespie, yeah, he had terrible embouchure because he let his cheeks go out. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to keep them
He's like
in.
a bullfrog.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you like our Facebook page and join the Hoodie Fan Club at UnderTheHoodShow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Jill Kavanaugh, who listens to us in Kearney, Nebraska,
I like Kearney, Nebraska.
spelled with a K.
And an E and an A.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. Your place to turn to be a smart, well-trained automotive technician, or possibly a marine mechanic, motorcycle mechanic, power sports mechanic, welder, anything automotive.
Motorcycle technician seems like it would be fun. And I think, like, automotive tech, it seems fine too. But I'm not always super happy when I'm getting my car fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It seems to me like when you're bringing your motorcycle in, but it's not like it's probably not
your only transportation. You know, your kids aren't yelling at you because the motorcycle's not, working.
So
when
you
it's
bring your
dad's
motorcycle and it's fun. You're getting it fixed. Then you're going to ride and you're happy to. It's like when I get my car fixed and I go pick it up. How happy am I when I get my convertible fixed?
The downside, and I have a nephew that's in power sports, and he's done a lot of it, different things, marine, and now he's really working on the snowmobile, ATV side of things. The downside is in our part of the country, which, by the way, we're in the hoodie today. You can buy one of these.
Yeah.
We just gave one away, but it is hoodie weather. I don't put mine on off.
Buy a
This
couple
morning
of
it was
them.
cold. It was
2 or
ready.
3 hoodie weather today.
Yeah.
We also have T-shirts there.
Yeah.
The guy that sells our stuff said, he goes, nobody buys T-shirts. So
Yep,
just
go
a
get it.
reminder, we got
Yeah.
ample T-shirts for sale, and they're cheaper than a hoodie. So if you want to do like a combo pack, we talked about that, putting a combo pack together.
The 4-season pack, I
yeah,
like to
you can
call
have a
it.
T-shirt, a hoodie, and a hat. But anyway, back to my nephew. I digress. He said that the biggest challenge for him in our part of the country is that our seasons are so short for the things that you use. The temper of people can go up really fast if they're trying to go out and boat and their boat is broken.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're trying to go out motorcycling and it's the nice day and the weekend. They're going with all their buddies and the bike won't run.
There you go. Hence Universal Technical Institute.
Yes.
Because right now, if you want to get your boat repaired in May, they don't have enough people, and they need people.
Well, so many
They
people
need
have bought
mechanics.
boats and recreational vehicles and ATVs and snowmobiles during the pandemic, and people have just really, and I think it's great, they're going back to family-connected activities they can do
Outdoor
together,
events.
outdoors activities. I just heard an update in our local town from the park system. The number of people that are visiting our parks in and around our little Garrettson area are just through the roof, compared to pre-pandemic. So just I want to put a little caveat on that. The most people are happy when they're working on those things, but they are not happy at all in a short season when it doesn't work and nobody can fix it.
But when you're working on it, they're happy. It's when it's sitting there still. When it's still.
But I will say, too, that the bills and the labor rates and such for getting that stuff done isn't getting any cheaper. So there's another
it's way
unhappy
up
factor.
there.
I'm not trying to
Way
be
up there.
Debbie Downer here, but it's
I
not.
think you're-
there's
you're
some
doing
things
a-
about it that aren't really happy.
You're doing a
talking about
great job
UTI.
for UTI.
Yeah.
You're saying it's perfect.
Get in.
Yeah.
They need you. Rates are going up.
Uh-huh.
And you can...
And you don't start off as the boss probably, so you don't have to take it. You're in the back fixing the motorcycle. The boss is up front going, "No, sir, I understand. I know. Yeah. Yeah, you can just come get it if you want.
I would think another advantage maybe would be that on a motorcycle or an ATV, for the most part, you can pick up all the pieces with your hands.
That's true.
With a vehicle, which they make great tools to help you, but you need assisting devices.
And they're way cleaner.
Yeah. Just so there's highs and lows to all of them.
Let's talk to Tom in Nebraska. You're on the Under the Hood show. Tom, what can we do for you?
Well, I called in about a 96 Buick LeSabre that we had acquired with 157,000 miles on, and it had not been driven much for the last couple of years, owned by an elderly couple. Very nice condition, and I was wanting to know what maintenance to perform on it. You guys answered a question, and I called back with a follow-up question because one of the things I kind of did a dad inspection on the vehicle to see what we might want to do to get it back on the road for my daughter to drive. And both end links on the front stabilizer bar were broken. And I had called back. When I talked to you guys, I forgot to ask a question that I had. What might cause that to happen? The fact that both of them were broke.
Just age and corrosion. In our part of the world, if you're from the northern climate, we see them broke all the time. They run typically on that era, they ran a threaded shaft, basically, longer threaded on the end for adjustment, and then they ran it through a sheath to keep the separation between the bar and the control arm. And that was just a mecca for moisture and corrosion, and they break. And they're under stress all the time. They're always under stress as you're turning corners. Their intent is to keep the car level as you turn corners. So as you dive into a left-hand turn, the wheel goes up, the stabilizer bar link gets pushed up, the bar goes up, it pivots on the frame, and in theory, it pulls the other wheel up to keep the body flat. And so that's a lot of stress being put on that link, and if they start to get some corrosion, they will just snap.
And they kind of, the question of, we've answered this before. I asked this question on my own vehicle 15 years ago. They generally wear about the same, so they're generally in the same condition as they go through age. That's how time works. And I think it was you who told me, Shannon, you said that when you're talking about front suspension, that kind of thing, sometimes you can ignore one of them until the other one goes. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't drive this anymore. And you find out, well, it used to make a little noise. It used to do a little bit when I would turn left. And then when the other side goes, that's when you're like, whoa, why did they break at the same time? Well, they might not have. It might have broken a couple days ago or a week ago.
The car is going to get really just wishy-washy around corners when they're both broken, and sometimes the piece will get caught and it'll snap.
Noise.
Big
Clunk,
noises
clunk,
as it
clunk.
gets caught on the edge of the control arm or on the edge of the sway bar. And there's some vehicles that the ends of the sway bars crack and break too. I mean, that's not an unusual thing too. They got little loops on the end of them, and sometimes they'll crack and break. So a good physical inspection of the bar. Make sure the pivot points on the body are in good condition. Those bushings are in good condition, and then you can go to one of our partners, like Dorman makes a aftermarket replacement kit. You can pick up at
Dorman Products sells the whole thing, the bar and the links and everything, and the bushings.
Yep, and you can pick that up at most of the major parts stores near you.
Does that help you out there, Tom?
Yep, the bar and the actual bushings that the stabilizer bar attaches to look good. The upper part of the end links were still attached to the stabilizer bar. They both broke at the lower part, the control arm.
Yep, you just buy a link kit.
Mm-hmm. Probably $20 to $30 for the kit.
How much installed? I want to bring it into you.
Another hour's labor, whatever anybody charges. But now there are.
So like $40. Isn't that what
That's
they charge?
not where it's at.
Yeah,
right.
You're wrong.
So he's got Tom's got the lucky car with the bolt style. If he had we call them the trailer hitch style, those links can run anywhere from $25 a piece to $90 a piece, depending on the application and the length and all that stuff. They're more money, but they do last longer than the bolt style. The bolt style rusts, the the newer style, they just start clunking, clunk, 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 every time you hit a little bump and roll in a parking lot. That's when you know that, those are the ones we say, yeah, those are fine. They make some noise, but when they break, you got to replace them. Yeah.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Corby in Colorado. Corby, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you. Is this a special day?
Why is that?
You're on the radio with us, so it is a special day. Thank you.
For us.
Okay, here's what I got. I got I'm originally from Sioux Falls. I've listened to your show for many, many years.
Thank you.
And back even when there was only two of you. And
that goes back a long ways. I started.
We have a
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a 2012 Chrysler Town and Country with the 3.6. Recently, the last month or so, once in a while, and the wife goes down, or even I've had it happen, it won't start. The key, you turn the key, the engine turns over, and you think, okay, it's usually started by now, and you just let go of the key. Well, the engine keeps turning over. And so you have to manually turn the key off and back on. And sometimes you might have to do that twice. I had read something that you had talked to somebody about this once before, and you thought it could be a fuel pump issue. So you had them turn it to on, count to 4, turn it off, count to 4, and cycle the key that way. And my wife tried that yesterday, and that didn't help either. But when she turned it off the last time, because it kept on running, and when I say keep on running, I mean it's just turning over. She turned it off, waited a bit, turned it on, and it fired right up. And then it'll run fine. We've never had an issue on the road, and I'm not getting any codes, and I'm just looking for free assistance.
That is what we are all about. We are all about free assistance from this time period to the end of the time period. After that, we are not about free advice.
That's right.
That's how we got to pay for the show.
There you go.
But
Understand.
Thanks for calling, and thanks for being a long-time hoodie. That's pretty cool. And what part of Colorado are you in now?
Aurora.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, first of all, for the hoodies that are listening, not unusual for the continued cranking, because most of the cars have a start relay system built into them, so that when you turn the key or push the button, you're activating the start sequence. And so the car is trying to start whether you would hold that key or not. And so that's why that does that on its own.
It's a push button start with a key.
Yeah. And so that's right. So that's why it's like that. Both Russ and I, listening to your symptoms, still suspect that you've got a fuel delivery issue.
A fuel pressure gauge would verify that 100%.
And so you would take, if this was the symptoms and you wanted to verify it, it's not going to give a code, most likely, because it's a base system prior to the OBD2 sensors and everything else. And you could put the fuel pressure gauge in line and just see when it's not starting. Don't you kind of run it up so you can see it in front of you? I mean, if you're by yourself, or you guys can look at it right underneath the...
I duct tape it right to the windshield.
I've seen you do that before.
If I need to drive it, but in the driveway, I'm just going to hook it up, lay it there in the window, and get in and turn the key on and see what I got.
Have you ever tried to leave it there and drive just a little bit, and then it starts to tip, and you're like, oh, you ever not tape it, but drive with it just resting there?
I stuck it under the windshield wiper.
Okay.
Yep. And I've had one falling off and roll down a fender and swing in the wind.
Yeah.
So, Corby, if after the vehicle starts and then you subsequently drive it 15 miles and then shut it off, will it start right back up again?
Yes. I have not had that fail.
It sure sounds like it's bleeding back fuel or not generating enough pressure as it has sat, and it's just taken that extra work to prime that system back. That's what it sounds like. And without any other lights on, that's the first thing we would check, is that fuel pressure. And if that fuel pressure is poor and it's not a model that has a pressure regulator or something else that could be in line, always check the filter. If it now, Russ, does that have a filter or is that one in tank? I'm trying to think.
In the tank, part of the pump.
Yeah, so you can't just, like some vehicles, replace a cartridge filter that can be restricted. It's more than that, I think, on that vehicle.
Is
You're
there
gonna get a new pump with a filter?
Is there some hurry here that he has to get it done, or just a pain and it's going to end up?
Yes, the long start is followed by the no start or the dying on the road. This is just a first symptom that can go on for a year in some cases.
Test that symptom, and that's probably a indicator. Put the budget out for a fuel pump.
Corby, thanks very much for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Going back to what we were talking about earlier with cars and availability and pricing and all that, someone asked me the other day about the scarcity of cars, and is that I drive past the lots and they're empty. Is that just? And one of the things I like about coming here is that shortage of cars. That I can see that every single week now. When I pull up here, for the last year, every time I come in, I'm like, there are fewer and fewer cars here at the recycling yard.
Chris,
there just are. Let's
start at the top. New cars, shortage, right? Mm-hmm. Used cars, shortage, right? We're an auto recycler. We deal in certified quality used parts off of used cars and new cars, which there is a shortage of.
Yeah. So it's just, it is a real, absolutely.
I will just raise my hand here as the person involved in the finances of that whole set operation.
Say, ouch.
There is no shortage of availability for me to have opportunities to buy the vehicles we need.
Okay.
Because people are still wrecking cars.
They are. Mm-hmm. The prices are just the same as you're seeing when you try to buy a used car or look at the wholesale market of used cars. Salvage prices also are through the roof. The indication that you see out here are a lot of the vehicles that we sell as repairable vehicles. Mm-hmm. Vehicles that, we look at them and say, you know what, I know people can still fix this vehicle, or it's a vehicle that has a mechanical problem that it needs an engine or a transmission. Just like Russ is having more people fix vehicles at his service center.
Older and older.
We're not seeing as many of those type of vehicles escape the system.
Right.
They're being kept within the system more often by the owner or by the repair shop. They're interested in it. So there's more repairing going on to supplement this shortage of vehicles. And so, this is the first time in my long lifetime of doing this that we have only had 20-some vehicles for sale. Mm-hmm. And we've had as high as 150 at some points in the past.
Right.
And it's not, we're not immune to it.
So, Chris, 70% at least, I would, 7 out of every 10 cars that I would say they're definitely not going to fix that. A year ago, if I would have said, no, they're not going to fix it. Right. That's a $2,000 car. They're not going to put $1,800 into it. They'll just get another one. 7 out of 10 of those are like, let's fix it.
I got to ride this thing out. I got to see if something gets better.
And I may be quoting them $1,000 or more than what it would have been a year ago for that repair because the parts are up. But the value of that car, there's a lot of these cars, like guy comes in the 97 Buick LeSabre. He's like, he's so proud he just bought that thing for $9,500. I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking that is a car, that's an exception. Those LeSabres in Park Avenues, those now are going for close to $10,000. And a year to, let's say 2 years ago, those cars where you could pick them up $3,000, $4,000, they have really gone up. It all
depends on the year model range there.
Some cars have gone up $1,000 that were $5,000 cars. Other cars, like let's say a Hyundai Santa Fe at 05, but you get into a Park Avenue, some of those have just more than doubled in price. Just depends on what it is.
And I will say, from the recycling facility point of view, we have never stopped having the opportunity to have 8 full bays of cars being dismantled. So from our dismantling operations, we continue to get inventory. It's more diverse than it was, but we continue to buy inventory that we need, and we continue to work with our trading partners and our PRP group all across the country to have the parts people need. We've been doing really good on supply, but it definitely some delays. There's some challenges to get things dismantled with the up and down nature of employment and waves of different sicknesses going around for everybody. There's been up and down, but everybody's in the same boat with that stuff. So
866-594-4150. Let's go to New York and talk to Marcus. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Marcus, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Big fan of the show. I have an 02 GMC Yukon XL that I purchased used about 5 years ago, and I love the truck. You know, I'm at about 200,000 miles.
Oh, I think we just lost you
no.
there, Marcus.
He loves the truck. He's got about 200,000 miles. He's got an 02 Yukon.
Maybe he was just calling to brag.
What do I need to do to keep it running?
Maybe he was just calling to go, that's it.
Or it's starting to show some rust in it. Is it going to be okay to continue? Well, Marcus, if the question is about the corrosion that happens on those vehicles, typically what we see, it doesn't affect the drivetrain as much. The bodies can get pretty gross if it happens to be about the corrosion. If it's a question about whether or not the vehicle is going to maintain and keep running, the 5.3 engine that's in that vehicle has proven to be a long-running engine. As long as it's not making a bunch of extra noises.
You could just go on about this 02 Yukon.
It could go on for a long time.
They have that knock in the morning?
Yeah, a little bit of cold start knock, in the morning.
Piston slap?
That's normal. Just as long as it goes away right away, that should be all right. But if it continues, you could have an exhaust manifold leak. You could have a valve spring or a lifter issue that occasionally will flare into those older ones. Transmission, probably the weakest link in the entire vehicle. Transmission, transfer case, I'd pay special attention to that. If it hasn't had a rebuild at 200,000 miles, it at some point could fail you. But pay attention to that real close. If the fluid's starting to look a little dirty, leave it alone. Just drive it. Let the friction of that dirty material continue to keep it working. U-joints in the drive shafts will break from time to time, get a little clunky, get a little clicky, give you a vibration at 70 miles an hour.
Major oil leak issue on those engines on the rear cover, which holds the rear main seal. If there's any reason you have to have a transmission out of one of those, always replace that. For a transmission shop to do it, you're probably looking at another $200 to do that while the trans is out. Otherwise, it's a $1,400 repair if you just drive in and say it's leaking. But those will turn into you can have big puddles under your vehicle overnight. And that's with any 5.3 from like 99 to 2007 is when we saw most of those leaking like that. But we have a lot of people that say, I just had a trans put in, now I've got this leak. It's like, well, we got to pull the trans back out. And,
the front hubs, bolt-on hubs, replaceable, can be an issue, that easy to do. We see more failures of the right one than the left one. Is that right, Russ?
I don't know why that is, but yes.
Crown of the road issue or something, we don't know. But and then as far as the last item I'll throw out there on that vehicle, occasionally, if you get a rattle in the exhaust and it doesn't run quite right, the ceramics inside the catalytic converters or the material in the curves would break loose and they'd clog up the converters.
At the Mexico Pavilion of the World Showcase at Epcot at Walt Disney World, I was fascinated watching an artisan make things out of glass. He had a torch and he would take rods of glass and just begin twisting and turning them, and all of a sudden he had a swan. I had the same feeling watching him as I did listening to you guys right there. It was like you just took some slag glass, and the next thing I know, you're showing me a swan.
And most of his swans turned out great. Mm-hmm. And we probably didn't see the swans that got broken.
Right.
But the O2
every once in a while, he'd just throw it in a bucket and start
again.
The
O2 Yukons, most of them are running good. They start getting a little bent neck or something, but they got some issues just here and there. But
that'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. Hour 2's coming up, 866-594-4150.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. We've got some calls coming in while we were starting the show. Earlier, we were talking about replacement of cars and, of course, the cost of cars, the expense. And we got a Facebook comment from someone who said, yeah, they had a car damaged and the insurance company, and they just said, you just keep it. I mean, we'll pay for that, but we don't have a replacement for it. So let's just keep it and figure it out because the supply is just that low.
That is happening at collision shops across the country, too, is that with policies that are tied to the actual cash value of the vehicle, and the market has went up, the people can't find replacements for what they've wrecked. And
or they can't get parts to fix.
Yeah, that's the other part of the challenge. That's getting ironed out for the most part. They're figuring that out. But the bigger challenge is just the values went up so much. The shops and collision centers, just like ours, are fixing more vehicles.
Right.
Because the replacements cost more. That gives a bigger window of repair to be able to decide to repair it versus just, let's get another vehicle. And I mean, that happened a lot. Yeah, I'll get another vehicle. Not as easy of a decision as it was at one time.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Steve. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Steve, what can we do for you?
Hi, I have a 2005 Chevy Malibu, and daughter's driving it for college. And I know that it has a 3.5 liter, and the transmission is the 4T45E, from what I can find online. So anyway, she lost the high gear in it, and I'm wondering, versus replacing the transmission or maybe the shift solenoids that are in there. I dropped the pan. There was nothing in the pan. It was clean. The oil looked good. Added new oil, but it didn't solve the problem. So the shift solenoid, what do you think? Try to replace that? Junk the car? Or a whole new transmission?
Boy, we're going extreme. Let's slow you down a little bit. Let's do a little testing of something here first.
Do you have any codes in the transmission? Have you scanned it? Is there anything coming back for transmission solenoids?
There is a Shift B code.
Good. Shift B circuit code. That is an indication that you may have a solenoid that has failed or a wire that is broken going to that solenoid. So that's a good indication there that it could be fixed with something as simple as a solenoid or repairing a broken wire. You can test that by simply unplugging the transmission and using a volt-ohm meter to read the resistance of the solenoids. And if you see that one is open, well, then it's definitely failed, and you can pull the cover off and replace that solenoid. That would be a encouraging thing. But if you find out the resistance is good on all of them, then it may be that it's commanding it on, but it's not seeing it shift, and that's why it's setting that code. But when you get a circuit code, it's usually an indication. If it's a performance code, like it says Shift B solenoid performance, it could be that it's telling it to turn on, but it's not working. But if it says circuit, that's typically an open in the circuit itself.
Well, and the indication that he says that the fluid looks good and it doesn't look burnt or smell burnt is encouraging that you're not slipping clutches. Because, when you give that, you obviously know your vehicle well because you rattled off the engine displacement and the specific type of transmission that you have. That E on the end, that stands for electronically shifted. And, GM did that.
Well, you can find a lot online.
Yeah, oh yeah, we can all be experts in such a hurry on any subject. It's awesome. I love the internet. But, I think Russ gave you some good advice there, and I'd keep your hopes up before you go to that far end of the spectrum and say junk the car.
Does that help you out there, Steve?
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Doug. Doug, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Well, got a question, guys. I'm looking at an '09 Challenger SRT8. Wondering if the factory transmission driveline is a little bit bulletproof or not. Previous owner had it tuned for methanol and had nitrous on it, so he's done plenty of runs at the drag strip with it. And I don't know if I should make my offer a bit lower, thinking I might need some transmission or rear end work in the future.
I have a guess, knowing absolutely nothing. I have a guess that yes, he's going to. As someone who has a car that was outpaced my knowledge, yeah, I bet.
They did build those cars to handle what they built. That doesn't mean you can't break it.
Right.
Yeah, they're strong,
True.
but if you've tuned it to run on ethanol, which can be done pretty easily. I mean, they could adjust it to run on that and nitrous, so that it gets higher octane with that fuel. They could. It just depends on how well it was done. If it leaned it out at any point, it could have some burned cylinders and stuff in it. If you had the chance to take it and do a thorough inspection on it, a compression test, a leak down test.
Probably a leak down test as much as anything.
Looking in the cylinders with the camera, you could determine if there's anything wrong with it. And if it's in great shape, there's no reason not to pay full price for it, or them to sell it for full price. I should say you should always try to get as cheap as you can. But there's no reason that they shouldn't be selling for full price. But if you look in there and there's cylinder scoring and some damage from abuse of driving it past its limits, then you don't want to pay full price, because I can tell you right now, that engine and that Challenger, probably if you pay to have a shop put it installed, it's going to be somewhere, a used engine, somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000. A remanufactured
May not be available.
And if it is available, you can add a few $1,000
because that's
onto
pretty limited production, and the cores are high demand. I just don't think that's going to be an easy one to find. I would definitely let them see if they'll let them have you do a leak down test on it, because that's going to give you condition of the cylinders, if it's blown by the cylinders, valves. Make sure there's no valves that are burnt or damaged from the excess pressure they've put in there. Transmissions haven't been a big issue for us. I know you had one up there that you worked on one time.
We've only put one in, and that was just destroyed by the customer. It was just literally,
and a rear carrier too, wasn't it?
Yeah, they would rev it up in neutral. They had a tuner on it, so they could rev it up in neutral, and then they would slam it into gear with it held to the floor.
Just not good driving
not
technique.
Normal. But other than that, we have never put a transmission in one of these.
No, that's not fun. That's how you break things. I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I know, but still,
bad.
That's sometimes the way you break things is
But other than
fun.
that, we have not put a transmission in one of those.
Does that help you?
Yeah, that helps out a lot, guys. I appreciate that.
If you get it, swing by. Bring it by, and we'll take a look at it. Thanks very much for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. This is the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Now let's talk to Kenny. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kenny, what can we do for you?
Hi. See, I have a Ford Transit van, full-size cargo, 150 or half-ton size. Got a 3.7, I think it is. And what happens is, historically, you go to start it, and it just starts right up. Boom, you're going. But now in the last month or so, sometimes I go and start it, and it'll turn, you know, ding, 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 but no fire. Doesn't start at all. So then you're like, okay, put the key down, go back in and have a cup of coffee, and maybe come back to it the next day, and it'll start right up. Done that several times. I brought it to the Ford dealer. Thought they'd be the specialist. First time they said, well, sorry, we don't know what's wrong with it. Second time they said, aha, fuel module. Replace that, send me on my way, all is good, until it didn't start again. Third time I brought it back, and they looked at it and said, well, sorry, we don't know what's wrong. Where do you want us to bring it to? So here I am.
Well, then, after all that work, we will fix it over the radio.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
We'd like to help. That's our goal here, is to help.
I have one question here. So you said after the module, you took it back and it wouldn't start at the dealer, correct?
Well, he didn't say
started
that.
enough to get it out of there.
Right, but when was the part where, was it the dealer who said, we don't know what's wrong with it? Where do you want us to take it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So they put it on a tow truck, hauled to my place, dropped it off, and then my son went to move it and just started right up.
So
Relocated it.
when it was at the dealership and they said they don't know what's wrong with it, was it starting and running at
No,
that
they
point?
towed
or
it to
was
his house.
But, well, yeah, but it could have been running. So was it not starting when they said they don't know what's wrong with it?
No, I think that's the problem for
Good.
him. It started up. It would not reproduce, the symptom of not starting.
Okay, that's what I was curious about because I was
And
saying
we can give him a light pass at that point.
if it's at the dealership and it's not starting and they're telling you they don't know what's wrong with it and it's a 2016, they shouldn't be a dealership anymore.
Or they have a serious case of sickness going through and they have nobody there to work on it or something.
If they're saying we don't know what's wrong with it and we're not trying, I mean, they should be telling you something about. But if it does start, oh yeah,
there's just nothing
that
that
happens
you can
everywhere.
do, right? I mean, if
you've got to see it not working.
Yeah. The problem is it won't start intermittently, and I bring it to you, and you keep it. You could keep it for 5 years.
Yeah, and I don't mean, Chris, you driving in your car and saying, okay, here it is. Look, it doesn't start. You see? Okay,
Right.
I've seen it, but now it starts when I go out there and put my test equipment on it. I'm like,
and
it
that fuel
starts
pump
every-
module is a likely culprit.
Yeah.
And so they probably chose that as a likely culprit.
But it could be the fuel pump that's going bad that is overloading that thing. I wonder if they tested the resistance to see, and the amp draw of that pump to see, because we've had some pumps that burnt up that module, or we take the module off the frame and the back side of it's corroded through and we go, oh, look, it's bad. We put a new one on, and then a few months later, we've had these come back. The pickup trucks come back, and they're not starting occasionally. And we check, and the amp draw of that pump is twice what it's supposed to be. So it's tripping that module and not letting it start sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it could be that the pump, just like a blower that pulls too many amps and burns up that resistor, well, the failure is the resistor, but what caused it to fail? The overloading by the
I know
blower.
people probably think we give fuel pump as the solution way too much, but it is such a common thing that we work on.
No pump, no run.
And so...
But it can be tested while the vehicle is running. So when you come in and say, my car doesn't run, sometimes I'm going to look at the things that are obvious before I say, I don't know what it is. Unless there's are occasions where we just know from our experience.
Yeah,
that-
your experience, or you get onto the network and it says, no, this is really common.
Yep.
These fail. Look here. There's a green wire that runs by the frame. It gets pinched by, or something like that.
And other ones that are so uncommon, we don't even touch them until they're broken, because we say, look, this Nissan never has a problem with this door lock knob. We're not even going to attempt to look because it's not.
So what would be the normal amp draw on a pump?
That you can look up the specifications in the service manual to find out exactly what it's supposed to be. It'll always be less than what the fuse is rated at, the circuit protection device, but they all have an amp rating. You'll find in some cases you may see a pump that draws 3.5 amps and it's got a 20 amp protection on that device. So don't think that it's okay if it's drawing 15 or 10 amps, because it's still under that. So you've got to look at if you look up description and operation in a service manual for pretty much every electronic part on a car, it will give you a current consumption, what the amp draw is, what the voltage is to run it, temperature rating, things like that. And that'll give you an idea of how to start checking a circuit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There you go, Kenny. Does that help you out?
Sounds like a good hint. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good hint. Yep.
Yeah, and so but at the end of the day, when that thing dies, I'm just going to ask Russ this question: what could he keep with him when it's dead that could help give a clue?
Like a fluorescent tube when you rub a nylon on it and it lights up a little type of thing? Okay, I'm with you.
Maybe not that.
Okay.
We're both pausing to think about that.
A friend who can listen to the fuel pump and see if it's running
Yeah.
when you turn the key on, when you pull the cap off and just listen, do the old RCA dog. I don't hear anything. And then a plain old volt ohm meter that you can, if you know where to connect back there. And I've seen some people go to the extreme of putting they'll run a power and a ground wire off of the fuel pump. They'll connect them, back probe them, and connect them and run them up to the outside where they can get to them when there's a problem. They make sure they're not touching anything.
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, it won't start. Hook the power wires up to them and see what they've got, or leave the meter on all the time. If it's a van or something, you can run it inside and just watch. If it's not starting, hey, I don't have any power back here.
If he had a scanner with the right ability, would he see anything?
Maybe.
If all of a sudden he saw there was no crank signal at that point or no something, there's different things he could look at himself to see, okay, what don't I have? Do I not have fire? So there's some different things you could do to be prepared to help find the solution.
Is there anything along? We had a call earlier about turning it for 4 seconds, turn it off. Is that going to be a symptom check on this one?
No.
Okay.
No, just to finding out if that pump is running. That's if they've already replaced a module back there. It wouldn't hurt to go listen in that area and see if the pump is not running.
What about taping a tube to where you'd listen for the fuel pump and then running it into the car?
How about 2 styrofoam cups and string?
There you go. So you got it.
Don't get the fuel on the styrofoam.
No, not at all.
You got to remember this fuel pump will only run for about 2 to 3 seconds when you first turn on the ignition. Then you have to turn it off for about 5-6 seconds before you try it again, because people will turn on the key and go back and listen for the pump. They don't hear it. They assume the pump is not running when it only runs for that priming mode for a couple seconds.
If you've got a sump up, Kenny, with a hose that runs off it, just take like 8 feet of that hose.
Tape it to the side.
Tape it to the side.
You are convinced to come up with a listening device.
I think it'll work. Kenny, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Got a question from Facebook. Opinion on higher octane on turbo gas engines, especially when under higher, more consistent boost conditions like towing for the 3.5 EcoBoost.
Yes.
Seems this would be a good thing.
Yes.
You guys, okay.
Yes.
All right, yeah, there you go.
Should we answer that one? Yes.
I'm going to answer this one. Yes. That would be we like the higher octane.
Well, you will find your economy is going to go up. And if you've got like a little Sonic or something with one of those tiny little sewing machine engines in it, your economy is going to go up too with the higher octane in that.
You want to check that to see if it pays off, though, right? I mean, that's we're kind of getting to the. It's funny how there was a time on this show where we talked a lot about fuel economy, and
we've rode this wave up and down.
And now we're kind of getting back to it. I think it's
the
interesting.
Engines have changed.
That as now we're still not talking about it because car prices have gone so out of control that people aren't really thinking about the gas prices as much.
Every
Do you know what I
price
mean?
has gone out of control, it seems like. But yes, on economy, I did a lot of experimenting in over 4,000 miles with, I put a lot of fuel in a vehicle. And I tried premium with the highest octane I could get for a, solid 5 hours of driving with that in there in similar weather conditions and everything, wind and all that. And then I tried a little lower octane. I tried ethanol, no ethanol, different things like that. And with mine, I found out using the ethanol with a medium octane, it turned out to be the E15, was my best fuel economy. Running a 91 octane premium, no ethanol, there was no better fuel economy with that. I mean, not even a tiny bit. It was just like dead on the same.
Okay.
So I thought, this is great. But then I ran a 10% in there because it said I could run as low as 87, and I dropped off over a mile per gallon. And then I switched back. So I was doing the switch back and forth between, I did that, 2 tanks of that, and then I did like 5 tanks of the E15, and the 15 is right where I got the best. And I thought for sure that 5.3 engine and that new design with the direct injection would have been a little better on premium. It wasn't. It was like they tuned it because I would assume because it's, E15 is prevalent in the market. The vehicle is built at the time where it's prevalent in the market. They're probably tuning it to get pretty close to that. When these engines were coming out and the EcoBoost was first designed, it was a whole different thing. There was so many different fuels available, and different states had different things, and different people were using them in different applications. We found out as we went along later that the octane made a big difference.
Now, but for his particular question, though, Russ, we like the octane to help prevent premature engine damage and stuff too. So the vehicle can absorb a certain amount of detonation and different things, but by putting that good octane in there, you're going to lessen the impact the computer has to do to adjust, and it can hopefully find itself in a happy spot on its graphing table they made from the factory. Plus, you're going to help keep things burning consistently cleaner. And I don't know, we really recommend an ethanol blended fuel with the octane to help with that also.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and you join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Mike Lewis, who listens to us in Watertown, South Dakota. Congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood Show.
Cold up
106.
there. Yep. Yeah, there you go.
It is cold.
Mm-hmm.
You need all that power to thaw out the airways.
You need 106 type of power.
You do.
Yep.
You do.
Congratulations. That's pretty high power.
That's pretty high, yeah.
From our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. Check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. If you're thinking about mechanical stuff, just go there, uti.edu. You'll see everything you need to know. You'll be impressed.
We were talking about the Marine Mechanic program. That just made me sad. When we were talking about that, I just kind of got bummed out. And motorcycles, because it's like 14 below, and none of those.
Unless you have an icebreaker.
Oh, yeah. You could go work on an icebreaker. You could spend your winters up north.
Yeah.
You could do the opposite. You could go spend your summers in the south and your winters up north.
And you would still need a hoodie, so they're for sale. We gave one away to Mike, but they're for sale. I'm wearing mine today.
Mm-hmm.
Russ had his on last week, so I got the hoodie on. This is what you get right here.
There it is.
Well, Chris, just 8 more shows, and it'll be you'll probably be driving the convertible again.
Doug's got his hoodie on.
Yeah. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bob, what can we do for you?
I'm working on an 06 extended Ford van, and the dome light don't want to shut off, it seems like, when I get out of the vehicle. Pull the key, shut the door, and that dome light, and then I don't find a timer of any kind on that truck. What can I do to make that dome light shut off?
It is Ford Van Day on the Under the Hood Show.
Econoline Van Day.
Bob, I haven't heard from you in so long or seen you. I thought you were dead.
Oh, my gosh. That's
No,
harsh.
shoot.
Nothing could kill you.
No, not at all. I've just been working that hard that I haven't had an opportunity to stop by the shop and talk to you.
No one works harder than Bob. Bob is my old friend from Longview, Texas. We're from the same town there. So, well, Bob, I think what you got going on now, that dome light will probably shut off after 20 minutes if you close the door. You notice if you close the door and walk away, you come back, is it off like after half hour?
After a while, but see, this is the problem. I use that truck for work, and during the summertime, I like to leave the doors open.
Yeah.
And there's 3 lights going on the interior of it.
Well, so it still should be timed. About 20 minutes is typical on that for that gem module to shut it down. But if you've got a battery that's a little weak and you've got the radio on and you got all the doors open, you might run that battery down.
Yeah, these new ones really, they get enough modules running. They can pull a battery down pretty quick.
You you can do what a lot of people have done on those. And if you go to if you pull the headlight switch out of the driver's side of the dash there, they still got the old, knob switch. You can pull that out.
Yep.
Behind it, I'm kind of...
You mean pull the switch out of, not just pull the...
Take the whole thing out of the dash.
Okay.
Yeah. Behind it...
out of the plastic.
You're going to have to look at the wiring diagram because I can't remember the exact color on that one for sure. I think it is the white one. But if you cut the wire for the dome light and just cut it and then, extend it with 2 pieces of wire down underneath to a switch, just drill a hole in that little plastic cover down below the steering column there, right under the switch. You can put a toggle switch in there.
Yep.
When the switch is off, the dome lights won't work at all. If you turn the knob or if you open the door, they won't work. But if you leave the switch on, they will work. That way you can kill it. If you don't want the lights to come on, a bunch of mosquitoes outside, you just turn the switch off, you get out, you're safe.
I love this.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of toggle switches. It's never the answer.
Big old Frankenstein kind
We
of.
haven't given a toggle switch answer for a long time.
It's been a long time. But so the newer cars all come with this bypass built in. But the older cars, they had a lot of them in 06 that had this going back into the 90s. But this one does not have it. So, yeah, you could put
And Russ gives this advice because he knows it's a guy that's handy, and he knows it's a guy that has a work van that he's not going to get all weird if he has to cut a hole in his plastic to put a toggle switch in.
He knows that it's a guy that's alive.
Yeah.
Which he didn't know an hour
He knows
ago.
Bob's alive, and he's good chance that he's next to a carpet job.
I'll just get a new 12-inch blade for my cordless Sawzall, and I'll get after that bad boy.
There you
Don't
go.
get that serious,
go
Bob.
for it. Go
Now,
for it.
as
Do it
far,
yourself or-
but it's just as far as his problem with his lights staying on when the door is closed, it's probably the switch in the door on the latch.
Yeah,
Because he said that's staying on when he closes the doors.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
probably.
for a while.
Yeah.
but it should shut off.
I think it shuts
right
off
away.
at 10 miles an hour, too, doesn't it? Something like that? 10, 15 miles an hour, it kills it.
I just got the vehicle, so I haven't actually
I bet it does.
made mental note of that kind of thing. I do have another question, though, on that same rig.
Okay.
There's a spare battery hanging on the frame
Passenger
right
side?
under the back door, the side doors there. And it looks like there's actually wires running to it. Now,
It's
is
supposed to be.
that...
That's factory. Well,
What is that doing?
it could be factory. It's in the factory position. So the ambulance package and the cargo van that was prepped for an ambulance package or a severe duty package, they did put a auxiliary battery on the passenger side frame. This is not a diesel, is it? 7.3 diesel?
No, it is not.
Or 6.0?
Nope.
Yeah, okay, because the diesels all had a second battery down there. But yeah, if it's not a diesel, it's probably got an auxiliary package. It may be equipped with 2 alternators if you look under the hood. If it is, that's cool. You got tons of extra power. You could put yourself in an inverter.
Leave your dome light on?
Yeah, but you could put an inverter in it, and you could run your, a saw off it for cutting things when you're doing tile and hardwood and stuff like that. It's very likely it could be factory. If it's either wired direct to the other battery, or it's got a second alternator and a battery isolator in it.
Lights? You could put more lights on?
Yeah.
Smoke machine?
There we go.
Yeah.
Disco ball.
Yeah, you can work Friday and Saturday nights too, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
There you go. Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Kelly. You're on the Under the Hood show. Kelly, what can we do for you?
Oh, I got a K-Seal question. I've never used it, and I've got an 06 Freightliner with Mercedes in it.
Yeah.
And the top of the radiator just got looks like a little slow leak on it, right where one of them brackets are on the corner. And with that, do you think something like that would work to stop that?
Absolutely. That is a very good use for K-Seal on a very expensive radiator. Where that bracket goes, everything's kind of glued together up there, and K-Seal is made to fix that problem.
The worst part was that we just had some service work done about less than 5,000 miles ago, where they've had the radiator out and they put it back in because they said it really looked good.
Well, it may have looked good inside, but it's those seams can go at. We've actually had them where we pull out an engine to replace it. We do a lot of engine replacements. And we'll put a used engine in, reman engine in, and we put a radiator back in that was not leaking. All of a sudden, we're warming it up. And we're like, why is this radiator leaking?
It got moved. It got flexed.
It just drained it, changed temperatures, filled it back up, and now the glue is leaking. It's nothing that was twisted or anything. It's just the way it goes, and it's a bummer. So, that K-seal would be a good opportunity to stop your leak without clogging up the system because it doesn't use sodium silicate and all that garbage.
And it should
that a lot of
if
cheap
it
sealers
can
do.
stop the leak, it most likely will stop future leaks in that system too.
It's going to be a permanent solution if it's a tank that's leaking like that because of glue.
There you go. Kelly, does that help you out?
Thank you.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Mark. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Mark, what can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, guys. I've got a 2018 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and my question is about the automatic start-stop feature. I just bought it this spring, and the start-stop used to work, and now I can drive it all day, and on my dash it'll just say battery charging. Wondering if that's a problem or is it a blessing that it's not working?
Well, that's up to you. So a lot of the start-stop systems use two batteries. They use either two AGM batteries or they use an AGM battery for the start-stop, which is a lot of times under the floor, and then they use a regular battery under the hood. If that second battery for the start-stop technology is failing, and
It's usually a smaller battery.
Yeah, and a lot of them did after just a couple years. We're putting a lot of batteries in the 18 and 19s in the Chrysler products, and they just failed. So that could be what's going on. If it doesn't have a full charge, it won't operate. It's just going to start normally. So it's possible that battery is going bad. So look at your regular owner's manual in your glove box if you got one. If not, look online, and it'll tell you if yours is one of the models that's equipped with the second battery. If it is, have that battery tested. Likely it has failed, and then replacing that will take care of your issue in most cases. Now, those vehicles have two major problems. One, just the battery going bad, which isn't a problem. It's just a maintenance issue. The other one is if the start-stop technology doesn't work, a lot of times the brake switch goes bad or needs to be calibrated on the foot pedal. If the way start-stop technology works, if you're driving a car, you come to a stoplight, you're like, okay, the engine shut off. The way to prevent it from shutting off is as you stop, don't stop so aggressively. Keep your foot just barely on the pedal. Or if once you do come to a stop, if you want it to restart again, all you have to do is lightly lift your foot, not all the way off it, but just a little bit. The brake lights will even still be on, and then push back down again, and then it'll start right up. So it heavily relies on that switch in order to keep it running. So one of those two things is probably going on. But since it says charging, I'll bet that battery's just failed.
And everything else works because you still have your primary battery working just fine.
You might find in the summer when it heats up that it starts working again. That's a great indication that battery has failed because the colder temperatures are going to pull some juice out of it.
Does that vehicle have the ability to turn off the start-stop? I mean, some do and some don't.
Should be in the radio, I think.
Yep, it does. It's in the radio.
There you go, Mark. Thanks very much for the call. That is that one of, we've talked in the past about, I think, the Jeep that just the start-stop, the tolerances are so small that one little thing gets weak and it just stops starting and stopping.
You got to be at a peak state of health for that to work well.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to California and talk to Jeff. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jeff, what can we do for you? Oh, no. I think we just lost you, Jeff. Oh, you're cutting in and out there, Jeff.
You hear me?
Not really. Let's, can you hang up and call right back because we're bouncing, your cell is bouncing on and off there. Sorry about that, Jeff. 866-594-4150. That Autotempest.com, I don't know.
Love it.
They've been a sponsor of ours for a while, and they timed it perfectly because I must go to that site 3 times a day to see what prices are on cars just because I'm like, wonder what that one.
You think a gaming addiction is bad, and
Yeah.
Autotempest.com addiction is like,
It
oh,
totally
man,
is.
Man.
I start to speculate. I go, oh, this one's here. But if I could get this one here and then drive it over there. And
I sent a couple of young drivers there last night. They were here for our youth group that meets in our conference room. And, they know obviously they're at a car place. And so they come in and they say, hey, where do I get a 90 Porsche?
Yeah.
Only one place, Autotempest.com.
And they said that
All the
what
cars,
they
one
really
search.
wanted, though, was a car with blinky eye headlights.
yeah.
That's what they were looking for. Mm-hmm. And I said a Fiero would also work.
Right.
Firebird.
And so
Corvette.
then I told them about Autotempest.com. They didn't know about it, and they were intrigued. And so now next time I see them, I'm going to ask them how much time they've lost of their life in Autotempest.com. But I told them, I said, if you're looking for the best bang for your buck to find a flippy eye car, find a 4-cylinder Fiero, I said, you'll get your blinky headlights. Is that probably about as cheap and as affordable as something that's going to run okay you're going to find?
Miata, Fiero.
Yeah. Miatas are getting expensive. They went up pretty fast.
But there are, I would say if you go to Autotempest.com right now.
You cannot search by blinky eye headlights, I don't think.
But that would be a great search. So, Nathan, please put the blinky eye headlight search on. Keyword to that. But
we should make those aftermarket. We should find a way to make aftermarket.
That'd be a big project.
You could probably find, I'm certain you could find plenty of cars with blinky eye headlights still under $3,000 to $4,000 that would run. I mean, you got to look.
They might have been looking for $1,500.
Yeah. Let's go back. Let's see if Jeff's there. Jeff, are you there now? Let's see if this works. Jeff.
I am here. Sorry,
Okay.
I work on the southern border here, and we have some issues.
Well, thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
God bless you. How can we
Depending
help?
on what you do.
Yeah,
we don't,
that's true. Yeah.
He's got a 70 F-250.
Is it a high boy, big old 3/4 ton, or what do we got going on here?
Well, I have a 75 high boy and a 74 crew cab, but this one's a 70 Camper Special Sport Custom.
Oh, he's got an addiction, is what he has.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, the gauges. I changed the fuel tank, changed the sender, and I'm getting the correct ohms at the fuel gauge, but the fuel gauge, oil pressure gauge, and temperature gauge all seem to be reading about half of what they actually are. So I'm wondering if there's a separate regulator that's maybe gone bad for the gauges or something like that.
How about the instrument cluster voltage regulator, which is attached to the rear of the instrument cluster?
That little thing that I never knew what it was when I take them
little,
apart.
Yeah. That may have
Little
failed.
square box that looks like a
That's
like,
it.
like a big fuse almost.
Yeah, that you're like, this shouldn't be here. What does this do? Yeah, that is a very high failure rate thing on these old ones. I've put 4 or 5 on trying to get a good one at this point in life because they're old.
Not
old.
last week or anything.
No, they're all old. I mean, the last one I did was about 5 years ago, and we had somebody with a 72, and it was like, just couldn't get it to work. And finally, we got one that worked.
So
all right,
this
car-dashcard.com for that.
That's where we got ours.
Well, you just have to find somebody that's got a cluster, and
Yeah.
then ask them if, hey, make sure the voltage regulator's on the back yet, and I'll buy it from you. But that's getting
Got
to be
it.
that's a
This one's
classic.
got
That's getting to be a
23,000
classic.
miles.
That vehicle's a classic. That's hard parts
Yeah,
to
it was-
find.
If
My
you,
great-grandpa bought it brand new.
oh man, I would say if you have not yet, and you've got that many of these old ones, check out BerkeleyClassics.com, our partner that's been with us for many years, because you'll be amazed at what you can save and what you can still do with your vehicle
For insurance.
for classic car insurance.
They're not going to help you with a voltage regulator for the cluster, but they will help you with insurance.
Yeah, they can't fix your voltage regulator, but yeah, for sure. I think you're going to be right now. Everybody needs to be looking at ways to save costs, and that's one of the huge.
Don't you
ways.
think if he went out on eBay or Amazon, he could find one of them?
A voltage regulator
like that?
We couldn't.
You couldn't, huh?
No, we were looking on a 72, and we just could not. Nobody had. A lot of people had clusters, and this customer ended up buying several of them to get a good one. And Car Dash Part is where he finally found it, but couldn't get just a regulator for that. They're available for some vehicles, but they weren't for that one.
This 70 F-250, I'm imagining it being a kind of a pea green color. Russ, what do you think?
That light blue.
Light blue. What do you think, Chris?
Gold.
Gold. Ooh, what do we got?
Well, I gave you a hint when I said Sport Custom, so it's a two-tone.
So it's light blue and white.
The body, the body is holly green, the dark green.
Oh.
Okay.
That sounds fun.
I think you win on that one.
Close.
Right? You got the right hue.
You know, I'm going down memory lane because our family cut our teeth building our business on Ford F-250, F-150 trucks and C65 Chevy grain trucks. So our family drove, repaired, tore apart, got pulled around by a tractor with a chain in the cab of so many of these Ford trucks. So when I heard your list, I was like, that's a nice list. That was wholesome for me to hear.
Jeff, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Yeah, that is the classic look.
We have a
two-tone.
picture of the Ford tractor on its little single axle trailer, all cockeyed in the ditch with the pickup kind of sitting funny, and it was like a 70 to 72 Ford pickup pulling it. And, you know, something had happened, and the trailer had gotten off the side and ended up in the ditch. That picture's sitting around somewhere. And I imagine that truck, 70 to 72 Ford pickup right in that era, 67 to 72 right in that era. That's a lot of memories.
Let's go to New Mexico and talk to Lawrence. You're on the Under the Hood show. Lawrence, what can we do for you?
Yes, sir. I have a 2007 Cadillac DTS. It is a four-door sedan with 114,000 miles on it. I have just owned it for about a month, and after I bought it, I decided I wanted to sell it because it is difficult to get in and out of, low to the ground.
They are very low to the ground.
And I put it up for sale, just parked it in a parking lot, and I got one person came by and looked at it, and he said, well, that engine is a known problem by Cadillac. And that engine that's in it is a 4.6 liter V8.
Go ahead.
And it is a front wheel drive.
Exactly.
I have not seen very many V8 cars that were front wheel drive.
Yeah, that's not really that. We've talked about them and talked about known issues like head gasket failures and the big oil leak they have. Those are really the two only big issues they have. And that comes with a lot of miles and a lot of age, and it's worse in northern climates. You being at the part of country you're in, we see a lot less issues with those. The friends of mine that are in Texas that work on those cars are like, head gaskets, what are you talking about? I mean, they're rarely having those issues down there where there's not as big a temperature swing, and they see some of those with 250,000 miles on them or more, and they're still chugging down the road. Using a little oil, they do leak down there, but I would say if you've got a good running DTS with that many miles on it, yeah, it's still worth selling. You don't need to be discounting it at all because somebody says it's not worth it. If they don't think it's worth it, then they're not the person to buy it.
Right.
And right now the market's strong. You should be able to sell that for whatever they're bringing on the market right now.
If you're somebody that gets on the web, go to autotempest.com and look up comparables. If you're not, find a family member that can help you and get on the autotempest.com, one of our sponsors, and you can put in those criteria to match your car.
That's going to tell you.
And find out what approximate values are for that car. Do not be ashamed of that car. If it's clean, 116,000 miles, runs good, works good, doesn't leak a bunch of oil. If it is leaking a bunch of oil, that's something that's expensive to fix, but it can be fixed.
And the guy's not necessarily wrong, but he's also not necessarily right.
He's also trying to buy your car cheap.
Right.
Still a good car.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Lawrence, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com and make sure to follow us on YouTube and Facebook. We'd love to see you there. For Russ Evans, Shannon Nordstrom, I'm Chris Carter. Thanks for listening to the Under the Hood Show. All right, that'll do it for the show. It's if you're watching the stream or you watch the stream,
we're after hours now,
and you're in the South, man. It was cold. My car this morning was I could hear the metal You know what I mean? Like it sounded like if you were going to make a cartoon about the cold, my car sounded like that. It
Our
was
building,
like-
the studio this morning, I was sitting in here doing some early production, and I was hearing noises I've never heard in this building. And I've been in here alone when it's quiet and cold. But whatever this morning, it was cold
Something
enough.
was popping a little bit.
Things were ding, ding, ding. It sounded like, Shannon, you might want to check your roof.
Well, we've got to look at that.
right here, something is definitely.
Yeah, we got to look at that. We had some expansion and contraction issues with some screws that they've had to work on. So
What's funny is I saw the other day, I was sitting at home and looking out the window, which is the best way to be in the cold.
Oh,
and it was like 4 below. I was like, man, it's cold. And then I saw a memory pop up on Facebook. It was like 26 below, like 3 years ago.
I
I'm
had
like,
that same thought.
we just forget it,
Yeah.
don't we? And
Yeah,
I
we
guess
do.
you have to. It's like childbirth.
Coldest.
You don't.
Let me tell you.
Don't go there,
It's
Chris.
just as bad. I don't know
cannot.
what
We
what
cannot
you guys, you
go
women.
childbirth. We don't even bring it up.
This is at least as bad.
No.
The only thing that was
man.
that I would ever think in my life that could be halfway comparable to childbirth and only halfway.
I don't
would be-
even
You
say it.
don't even
say it.
know,
Don't,
Russ.
don't. Just stop.
Wait for it. When Ricardo gave me that bucket of hot sauce at the camp out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I still wouldn't go there. That was bad. I do have to. Okay.
I'm gonna be
You
gone
said
next
you
week.
said childbirth. We were down at. Oh, this is.
Well, you had to buy a car yesterday. That was like childbirth, wasn't it?
This is a good story, I think. We were down in Arizona visiting our daughter. The first year she's down there, the freshman. She's down there with her best friend from life, from ever since they were enemies in kindergarten, they say. But we're down there with the Kints, and they're playing a game that came off of one of their pieces of homework. I don't know what it was, but it's a game I love. You get a word, and you got to talk about it as long as you can without pausing.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what the name of the game
Yeah.
is, but you got to go. And then after a while, you get to a certain limit and you just have to quit because I can break that game typically. we had a word, and my neighbor, he's super good guy, and he's pretty low key all the time, but he laughs, he has a good time, but he starts going into this word, and the word was childbirth.
Oh,
And
no.
so he starts telling his story, and his wife's there, and we're all there. And by the time he got done, he was talking really slow so he could win. He was trying that technique, but his delivery was just so funny. But he goes through talking about how come everything we do in the house, when something doesn't go quite right, goes back to childbirth. And he had this, it just kept flowing, and he kept saying things, and it comes back to childbirth. And then how he ended it when he finally quit, he goes, and all I wanted was a Tylenol. we laughed so hard. Oh, that was funny. That made me think of that. It was a very funny moment recently. So,
There we.
I hope people enjoyed my reliving a good memory at their.
I'm just glad you took the heat off me. I appreciate it.
I will work to help my friends wherever
Thank
I
you.
can.
All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. If you are watching the stream and want to call into the show, that number you see, 866-594-4150. We are live in the studio, 9 to 11 Central Time every Thursday. So we would love to have you call us and be a part of the show.
Hey, just one more thing. And I've had this note here, and I don't think I'm going to say it on the regular show, but if you are on YouTube now or Facebook, you could find this. Search up Carrie Underwood's new Las Vegas show. And there's some video clips out there. And what's the song? You're the country guy.
Two Cadillacs.
Two Cadillacs. I'm not a country listener all the time, so but I obviously pop culture. Carrie Underwood is, she's famous and does her thing, and everybody gets a big attention to whatever she does. She'll go down in the Hall of Fame as one of the best, I'm sure. But one of her sets that she wanted to make, or the producers wanted to make, was a Cadillac that she would come up out of the floor on when that song was being performed. And they wanted to be able to have the guitar players on it and different things. Well, connection to a connection, Scott, who sells for us, him and Deb, their son Kyle, is friends with a guy that builds custom furniture for celebrities, and he gets into some projects and things like this. And so they were talking back in the Nashville area about how can we make this thing. They've got this really short window to build this amazing thing. it was being offered up that somebody needed to do this. I'm going to paraphrase all this deal here. And so the connection led back to my brother-in-law, Scott, and said, hey, where can you find us a Cadillac? Or is there anything around that we could get in a hurry and hack up to make something? And so a collection of people getting together and the ideas ended up getting a Cadillac that my dad had stuck at his house for years. And they came out from Nashville, and in Scott's front yard with a Sawzall, they hacked up this car to get the pieces off of it that they wanted to make what the vision was. And I think Scott and Kyle, and I can't remember his name, the guy that built it, they got the company part of it, but they put this vision together. Scott gave him some ideas. Kyle had ideas. He, of course, had ideas to begin with. And they built this thing in record time, made it so it could fit into a shipping truck and get to Vegas because she's doing a residency out there. And so now you can see this Cadillac that originated from my dad's tree belt, Art Nordstrom's tree belt, down at his house.
Where was our video guy when all this was happening?
This all happened on a weekend.
Where was our video guy
Yeah,
when this
exactly.
was happening?
There is a couple of videos that Scott took, but he couldn't do anything with them because this was all top secret.
Right.
And so now it's out there. And
so where was our video? Chris was just talking about this. Wouldn't it be great to come watch it on our YouTube channel?
Well, they've got...
Came out of our yard?
Yeah, exactly. But they've got some video. But at the end of the day, all we had was the car. And they had the idea. They had the craftsmanship. What they put together is pretty amazing. So hop on there and look at Carrie Underwood.
I'll post it right now.
You're going to post it on our...
YouTube and on Facebook.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And I've had a note to talk about that. And I that's probably not something we put on the regular show, but this is a good venue for it in the after hours part to talk about it. And maybe you could even reference our after hours if you want to hang on a little bit when you post it.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty cool. I probably butchered a lot of the details, but that is the essence of the story. So pretty cool.
That's pretty good. That's I'm just posting it now to YouTube and to Facebook, so you can go look at it.
But I know that the people involved should be rightfully very proud of putting that together. And we had some still pictures and stuff we got to see, and after we couldn't even see anything until this was officially shown. This was a big secret. And I guess Carrie Underwood just absolutely was enamored with it and loved it. And she made a comment. She goes, something about that's going to end up in my museum or something
cool.
like that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty neat. So.
All right, there we go. Thanks, everybody. And that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Until next time,